I would like to, I'm talking slow, Jay. I'd like to call the village board for Tuesday, February 23rd to order. Roll call, please.
President Kardowski,
Here.
Trustee Paul,
Here.
Trustee Williams,
Here.
Trustee Krieger,
Here.
Trustee Flukie.
Here. Please stand for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please remember our men and women in uniform throughout the world. I have no changes to the agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I need action on the open minutes from January 26, 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 6, comments from the public must be limited to items not on the agenda, must state name and address, limited to 5 minutes. The board's role is to listen and not discuss the item. Personnel issues cannot be discussed nor individuals named, and the board is not able to take action at this meeting. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on something not on our agenda? Hearing none, let's move on. Number 7, oath of office. Chief, you're up.
Joel says it's live. It is. Okay. Thank you, board, for allowing us to do this. Jake was a little out of commission last month we had this. You're feeling better now, right? Okay. So one of the best parts of my job, obviously, is to be able to welcome a new officer. It is an honor for me to do this. As most of you know, well, all of you know, we're a pretty special organization. We are only one of a handful of organizations across the nation that do police, fire, and EMS. So it takes a special and dedicated individual to want to be able to do all 3 roles here. And we are fortunate enough to have Jake join us. Jake is a local guy. He went to Ashwaubenon High School, earned his associate degree from NWTC. And before joining us, he was a patrol officer for the Manitowoc Police Department for 3.5 years, spent 4 months as a school resource officer. So he has a wealth of knowledge, and we're looking forward to having him on board to join our team. So with that, Jake, if you want to come up, we'll have the oath of office, and then we'll have Brianna come and pin the badge on. I'm going to play MC here and hold the mic.
Please raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
to the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservations or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservations or purpose of evasion, or what was the last one? Sorry. Purpose of evasion, I'm sorry.
I got you.
and I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
And I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
of the Office of Public Safety Officer for the Village of Ashwaubenon,
of the Office of Public Safety Officer for the Village of Ashwaubenon,
acting to the best of my ability.
acting to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Now for the pressure moment.
Good job, Jake.
Let's see if we can get that badge on there.
Where does it go?
Don't worry, nobody is watching.
No.
You got it. You can just slide it in there and make it look like it's on. There you go. Hey, nicely done.
Congratulations and welcome.
Jake, welcome. Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay. Like I said, congratulations, Jake. Number 8, written communications or announcements. I have none.
I have an announcement real quick.
Okay.
I don't know if you all know, but this week is National Engineer Week, and I would like to thank our engineer, Doug Martin, and Steve Burt for all of their hard work and all the things that they do for the village of Ashwaubenon, keeping things safe, rebuilding things, creating things. So I greatly appreciate all the hard work that you and Steve do for us and all the engineers throughout the state.
Thank you. Thanks, Tracy, for knowing that. I did not know that, so thanks, Doug.
Did you know that, Doug?
No? Well, I think it's National Engineers Have to Bring Ice Cream Week.
There you go.
Yes, yes.
Thank God it's not on leap year week.
Okay, action on the consent agenda, A, action on operators licenses and the department reports. I need a motion if nobody wants anything pulled off of there.
I move to approve.
Can I
Second.
get? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Action items. Action item 10A, action on, the chief is not back yet. Should we go to 10B quickly? Okay, we're going to go to 10B, the 2021 Village Assessment Update. We have Mike Diener here to give us an update on what's going on.
In the budget last fall, it was budgeted to have a market adjustment done for 2021. I had meeting and conversations with Joel and Greg, and last year, the residential, the value, the different types of property was broken down into classes. The residential class seen a strong year, aggressive market, and the commercial struggled. And because of that, we have disparities, and the commercial is really not in a position that we need to do any kind of a market adjustment at this point, whereas the residential class is will be out of compliance by when they come out with their class with their equalized ratios this fall. So my suggestion to Joel and Greg was to do revaluation only on a market adjustment only on the residential class and not on the commercial. So it was budgeted for the entire thing. Because of that, the cost of it will be adjusted, and we would proposing just to do it on the residential class.
Okay. Does anybody have any question? I know it's really, our residential, the equalized value has fallen quite a bit, right, Mike?
Correct. It's a real strong market.
Yeah, yeah.
In commercial soft overall. It's
Right.
struggled with the pandemic.
Right. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm sorry, Mike, did you say when commercial was last done?
The entire village was in 2016, I believe.
Okay,
And also, just to add to Mike's comments, because this is a year where we're doing a market adjustment, albeit only partially based on class, we will typically have the open book and board of review at a later date than what is typical on a given year. Usually you do it in May, in June. What we'll probably see is that the market adjustment numbers will be finalized at some point this summer. Notifications will go out probably in July or August, and we'll be looking to do open book and board of review sometime in August or September in advance of the budget process. So just be advised that that process will be slightly delayed this year because of the market adjustment.
And I'll also add, we'll still have to meet in May.
right.
The board of review will have to meet and immediately adjourn to a date that we'll set at that time, when we'll have our board of review.
Okay,
So does that mean we have two board of reviews, one in May and one in approximately October then?
Yes and no, it's the same board of review, we'll just meet and immediately adjourn. When we meet in May, it'll be immediately adjourned, there won't be any cases heard.
Meaning we're just postponing it till October then?
Right, it's
Okay.
required by state law to meet within 30 days, second Monday of May.
Okay.
So we'll meet and then select a chair and a vice chair. And then having the assessment will not be completed at that time, we'll set a date to reconvene.
Very good.
okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, this was just informational, so we can move on. We will move on to 10A, action on appeal of denied operator's license, Corey Moffert. Corey is in the audience, if we would like to have him come before the board to speak on his behalf. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Corey Moffert, 986 Christiana Street.
Okay. So you were denied your operator's license?
Yes, ma'am. Obviously, I'm here to appeal that decision. Not to say that was unfair. I understood why it was denied the first time. But I have done everything in my power to not be who I was 10 years ago, 11 years ago. I have a letter from my current employer, Dave & Buster's, who vouches for me. I had a letter from Anduzzi's last time I was here, in which they were vouching for me. I have here, obviously it's expired, but I have a server seller license from Applebee's, in which I went through a serve safe course through them. I went through one with Red Robin, I went through one with my current employer. I was also granted a license about 4 years ago, which obviously was closer to my crimes than now, in which I'm being denied. I also have a serve safe for food through the state, in which came after my crimes as well. So the state obviously does not deem me a threat or sees me as a repeat offender. They are giving me the opportunity to be trusted with such licenses and certificates. So I'm just asking the same out of you guys.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions, or we will hear from the chief?
Chief, for about the third time, could you give us your recommendations on why you denied this request?
I can. Following the guidelines that we set forward with the Public Works and Protection Committee, I reviewed Corey Moffert's criminal history. He has several felony charges, misdemeanor, OWI with injury, eluding officers, second-degree reckless endangering safety. These are back in 2010. Probation violation, no drink violation, a felony in 2011. More probation violations, another OWI in 2011. And it goes on. And there's also, in 2017, he had a possession of THC. So with that, given our guidelines, he is less than 10 years out on a felony conviction. He also is failure to disclose the drug conviction, which is within 5 years. So following those guidelines, he was denied.
I do apologize about the not admitting to the drug charge. Obviously, my criminal record from back in 2010 is quite extensive, so I had thought I placed it on the paperwork. I was not trying to hide anything. Right here, I have a discharge paper from my probation and parole in which I was successful at completing. If any of you guys know, probation violations usually end in revocation or a little bit of jail time and you get released and you have more set standards. I was successful on my probation the second time around. I realized that I have made mistakes. Also, I was convicted in November 23rd of 2010 for both my felonies and did not ascertain any new felonies. I only have the 2 on record. The revocation is on those felonies. There's no new felonies from then.
Okay.
So I'm not really sure why it's showing up that it hasn't been 10 years, but yeah.
It showed your last probation violation was 12/15 of 11. So that's what I went off of for the 10 years.
Yeah, that was probably my my second OWI in which they revoked me off of my probation. Speaking with I had a few different probation officers. She was the first one. She revocated me for the OWI, and so it's probably going to show up as a felony conviction, but it's based on the original sentence.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? You know, these are really very tough decisions, and when the chief makes guidelines, you know, we pretty much have to follow the guidelines that he has set. And, you know, we're not against people getting a second chance, and I know that you can still 10 bar, you just cannot close.
I'm currently actually not allowed to 10 bar at Anduzzi's because of this judgment.
Okay. Well,
Also,
that must be an Anduzzi's rule, but
I understand that, but that is my job. My job is both Dave & Buster's, and they are also talking about, if I do not get my license, pulling me from bartending as well. This is my livelihood, guys. I understand you have decisions, and I also understand that the last time I was up here, you guys said that exemptions can be made. I'm not asking you to overlook my past. I'm asking you to see that I have changed.
right.
I worked at a paper mill for 18 months as a temp because they hired me on because of my record, and they wanted to wait longer to see if I screwed up. That is not the case then, it is not the case now. I'm doing everything in my power. I realize that I have that possession that does not look good on me, and I take full responsibility for that. But between my probation violations and a couple OARs that are now passed because I do have my license, I've done nothing wrong in severity of what I did 10 years ago.
Like I said, you know, these are tough decisions, and I have to go with what the chief recommends, and that's the 10 years on the felony. So I will have to vote to deny. So, anybody else have questions, comments?
No, we reviewed this at committee and basically came to the same conclusion. And like I stated at that time, it isn't a reflection on you personally. It's just the rules that we have established to follow.
Did not one of you guys say last time that you guys are able to make exceptions based on case?
We won't, if we do that, then we're making an exception on every single case that comes through.
Sir, you guys are saying that.
Because Corey, you got to understand that there's a lot of people that come in, you're similar situations. And we take it very seriously, the offenses that you have out there,
And on top of that, then you're being put in an environment where you're actually serving those types of drugs and things like that, and that's the environment that you're in. We just, as a community, have taken that very seriously, and that's why the guidelines have been set, and unfortunately, we have not made any exceptions, to my recollection.
I understand that, sir, but I have done everything that the committee has asked, and all you guys do is drag my name through the mud as though I'm that same person.
Corey, we have guidelines that we follow. We're not dragging your name through the mud. We're trying to make decisions based on the information that we have. One of the main issues that you have is that you have a drug conviction in 2017 that you did not disclose. I understand that may or may not have been an accident, whether you disclosed it or not, it still falls within the 5 years. So you wouldn't have gotten approved anyway. So I understand that this hurts. Please don't take it personal. That's not what we're trying to do here.
You guys want people to change, but you don't accept the fact that they have. I understand the burden that I have placed on you guys for my record, but I have done everything in my power to show you guys that I have changed. From certificates to successfully completing probation and parole to, you can ask the officer that pulled me over for that stop. I was cooperative, I didn't hide anything. As soon as he asked, I gave. I didn't hesitate, I didn't fight, I knew I was in the wrong. 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been the case. Just my cooperation with law enforcement during such stops should be enough to warrant you guys to say yes, to show you guys that I have changed. I understand you guys have rules in place, but I have showed you guys everything you wanted to see, and you guys still say, no, it's not good enough. You guys still say, no second chance.
There's nothing to do with what you've shown us, it's just based on the dates and when different things happen.
The 5-year and the 10-year.
So it's nothing to do with what you've shown us. You're working extremely hard to right wrongs that you made, but it has everything to do with the rules that we have established and the dates that are out there.
Right.
It's the bottom line.
And every time I do good, you guys take something from me.
No,
4 years ago, I was granted this license, and now I'm standing before you having to fight for the same thing you gave me closer to those dates.
Because the guidelines have changed. I've been here for a year, and I've established guidelines, whether or not they were followed at the time or not. But these are guidelines that we've agreed on at the committee level as well. So that's why you're facing this now. So I guess I would suggest if the board wants to continue on, we can do that.
Yeah.
Chief, one question, the guidelines with the 5 and the 10-year, are they state mandated too?
State mandated? No, I know we got that. We got input from alcohol and licensing from those as well.
This is something we as the board.
Yeah, and we got a lot of this information from the League of Municipalities as well.
Okay, they do follow other. All right, Corey's been up in front of us. I believe this is the 3rd time. I've been on the Public Works several times with him. Corey, we know you're trying. I can't give you, I can't compliment you for doing that. I think you were in a better place at the mill that you worked at as a temporary, hoping to get on full-time. You've heard enough from us about the guidelines that we do have. You're falling short on the time that we're allotting you. If it was a few years down the road, if you met the 5 and the 10-year plan, you would have been in good shape. So I'm going to recommend we deny the appeal for the application for the license.
and I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny the appeal for the operator license. Any more questions from the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 10C, action regarding Resolution R2-2-21, adopting the Brown County All Hazards Mitigation Plan. Aaron?
The Brown County All Hazards Mitigation Plan is a plan that needs to be adopted once every 5 years. for Brown County and its local municipalities to maintain eligibility for state and federal grants in the events of natural hazard emergencies. So whether that be ice storms, tornadoes, flooding, so on and so forth. So the draft plan is before you for your review and action. Any questions? Be happy to answer them.
We had this at Village Plan Committee.
At Plan Commission, correct.
Yeah.
Move to adopt the resolution R2-2-21 adopting the Brown County All Hazard Immigration Plan.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution R2-2-21 about the All Hazards Mitigation Plan. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 10D, action on resolution number R2-1-21, Ashwaubenon 2021 Food Truck Rally and Ashwaubenon Blast. This was read at the Public Works meeting, so does anybody have any questions? I'll let Rex talk about the food truck resolution.
This is our third year for the food truck rallies. Basically, it allows us to sell fermented beverages, i.e. beer, at the food truck rallies. Our tent is obviously separate from the food trucks. It's worked out well the last several years, and we expect it to be no different and hopefully in this coming summer. So this is just a resolution allowing us to continue that amenity.
I just have a question, Rex, on the hours for the Ashwaubenon Blast. It's listed from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Are you serving beer or having beer available during that whole time?
The first band, there's a couple things going on here, Tracy. Not real sure if we're going to have the blast this year. We've had several different meetings on it, just due to the size of the event and some of the activities that we have at the event that are fairly integral to the event. It still may not be in the best interest of a crowd to hold that, only because it has, thousands of people at it. The first band typically has started at 10:30 or 11 in the morning. There are people that would want a beer at that time, absolutely. So that's why we have that early time.
But you wouldn't actually be selling beer starting at 8 in the morning?
No, I'm thinking it probably would be,
11 or so?
yeah, probably about 10. Whatever the first band starts is when we usually do it.
Okay.
Yeah, to be honest, we have had people at 8 o'clock in the morning come up and want a beer, so.
Oh, yeah, probably from the car show.
Yeah, exactly. So we've always put it that we wanted it to start at 8, so if somebody does, then we can legally sell them a beer and we're done with it. Do we have people actively standing there selling beer? No, but it does occasionally happen.
Well, and that's my question. I am kind of concerned about selling beer at 8 in the morning. I mean, I can see when the band starts, they're starting 10:30 or 11 o'clock, and maybe you open the beer at that point, but I think just 8 in the morning is way too early to be selling beer to people. And
What about
if we
the
approve
people
this, then
that
I'm
work at night and 8 o'clock in the morning is their 5 o'clock to us? That's the reason for some of this thinking.
Isn't there a law that you can't sell beer until 9 o'clock a.m.? Or is that a liquor store? It doesn't open until 9.
I think it's for buying.
I think it's liquor store, yeah.
Liquor store. Liquor store is 9.
Yeah, I believe it's 9. Because a lot of the bars down in the, let's say, the industrial areas down Broadway, they're open at 8 o'clock. Actually, some of them are open earlier than 8 o'clock in the a.m. because the people getting off from the night shift, that's 5 o'clock
But they
our
can't
time.
buy
So
alcohol.
that's why they're open. So I can understand people coming from work, bringing a car to the car show. They want a beer, they serve them a beer. They ain't gonna last as long as the guys that come in at noon and stay there till closing.
Yeah, Tracy, I would say that, don't disagree with you. This was more of just a kind of, because we also aren't selling beer till 10 o'clock at night either. We don't do that. We shut it down prior to that. So it's just kind of covering that if somebody walks up and says, hey, can I buy a beer? Okay, yeah, okay, we'll give you a beer. But at that time, at 8 o'clock in the morning, I can tell you for sure, everybody had the cooler stocked at 8 o'clock in the morning. That was what the process that was going on at that time, because it's a lot of work to get it all set up, so.
Okay,
One quick question, Rex. Has there been any thought of having a car show through one of these rallies that don't conflict with the blast when it does start?
We can certainly do that. I got your email on that, Gary. I'll be happy to talk with you about it. We could certainly do a car show with that. If there's a group that is interested in partnering with us, I guess.
Well, I don't think you're going to find a group that's going to be on an individual basis who wants to come. It isn't going to start real big, I would assume. We've got one that we started at the church that we belong to, and we were surprised to get, for the first time, as many vehicles as we did. So I don't think you're going to see a big number, but it's a start.
I did talk with Mark Williams a little bit about it too. I asked if he would be interested in having his car show that he's done at the Blast, if he'd be willing to switch it over. There's a couple thoughts were, you know, it being on a Thursday night, he wasn't comfortable with that. He just thought due to the timing of the event that again, everybody's different, but he felt that for his, it would be better like on a Saturday morning or, you know, Saturday afternoon, that type of a thing.
It's a longer period of time, I can understand that.
okay, any more questions, comments? So I need a motion about Resolution R 2-1-21.
Move to approve as presented.
I will second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution R 2-1-21 as presented. Any more questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
10E, action on 2021 ash tree removal bids. Rex and Tim.
I will let our village forester talk about the bid opening that we had 2 weeks ago and what's in store. Tim?
2021 marks the first of a 5-year project to manage ash and EAB within the village. Street right-of-ways, parks, green spaces, and a limited amount of natural areas. That plan was reviewed and approved previously by both the village board and the park boards. And the funding for that was put in place in March of 2020 at the village board level. The project for 2021 is going to be essentially the east side of US Highway 41, including all street trees, and then all the parks in that area as well, including Smith Park and Argonne Park, which are just on the other side of that as well. And the reason we included Smith and Argonne Park is we have an ongoing tree planting grant with New Water at those locations. And to get the trees planted, obviously we need to get the removals done previous to that. The specs were written for this year's project. We sent it out to 35 different contractors in northeastern Wisconsin, some down towards the Milwaukee area where they've been dealing with this for a number of years. And we had 7 bidders submit bids on the project, and we had a number of other ones that were interested in it. For whatever reason, they didn't submit actual numbers to us. This was reviewed at the last week's park board meeting, and there's 4 separate projects, projects A, B, C, and D as outlined on your agenda item. And the way the bids came in, I had fully intended to use multiple contractors if that was in the best interest of the village, and that was the case in this situation. The low bidder for projects A, B, and D was Trios. They're out of the Fox Valley, out of Menasha, in the amount of $81,540. They've been doing work for the city of Fond du Lac for a number of years on similar projects. And then on Project C, which is going to be Argonne Park, and then a select ash trees along the fringe area of that park. Foley's Tree Service from Tomahawk was actually low bidder on that particular project. After speaking with Foley to make sure they were indeed able to mobilize that distance for what ended up being the smallest of the 4 projects, they were okay with that, and they would, if selected tonight by the village board, they'd be happy to do that work for us. So the recommendation is Trios Tree Service from Menasha, projects A, B, and D, in the amount of $81,540, and then Foley's Tree Service from Tomahawk, $10,079.
Tim, are you comfortable with all the vendors on that? You've looked into them to make sure they're good?
Yes, I did check references with some of the other communities that they worked with, and they were very, very favorable, and they were responsive to concerns brought to them during the project.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions, or I'll entertain a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the contract, split contract for 2021 ash tree removal, A, B, and D to Trios for $81,540, and Project C to Foley's for $10,079. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
10F, presentation on body-worn camera options and costs. Chief.
See if I can get my screen all the way up here. Why can I? There we go. All right, this is an ever-changing target here. I literally got a quote in at 6:06 this evening from vendors, so.
Up to date.
All right, just going to go over this. Joel, I apologize. We're going to do a little PowerPoint here, just kind of keep me on track. We good, Jeremy? All right. So, as you guys are aware, body-worn cameras that's part of my 2021 strategic goals for the department. I have started similar programs with previous employers, so I'm very familiar with a lot of the body cameras. I view body cameras first and foremost as protection for our officers. Our officers are out doing what they're supposed to be doing, and I think that most of, if not all, will agree that body-worn cameras are something that they really, really would like to have. I also view this as a protection for the village. We all have seen what has taken place over the last few years, and I think it's important for us to not only be transparent, but to have these items recorded for us, and not just 30-second snippets that we see on the media sometimes. So with that, the Green Bay Packers have offered to assist not only us, but Green Bay and the Brown County Sheriff's Office, so that kind of got the ball rolling a little bit. I will tell you that De Pere, Wrightstown, I think Neenah even, are already using the Axon Body 3 style cameras, and I'll talk about those here in a little bit. I believe Green Bay is starting their program with Axon next month, and that's the officer safety plan, and I'll talk about that as well here in a little bit. We have received quotes from 4 of the most reputable vendors, and we've also received 3 different quotes from Axon, and I'll talk about that. But we have quotes from Body Worn, WatchGuard, Digital Ally, and Axon. We are currently conducting trial with the Axon Body 3 and Flex 2 cameras. And we've also received presentations on site from three of the four vendors, Body Worn, WatchGuard, and Digital Ally. This next slide talks about Body Worn by Utility. These guys are relatively new. They are endorsed by the NAACP. And the main reason for that endorsement is they have the most automated features of any system out there, wherein they don't strictly rely on officers to turn on the cameras. This is a fleet and body camera package. The unique thing about these folks is that they require us to wear a specific style of uniform, in the fact that there is a pocket sewn into the chest area where the cell phone goes. So they have to install a mini loop, I guess, in all of our uniform tops, jackets, etc. In order for these to be worn. They do include that in part of the package, and they will say they will purchase those, and then any ongoing purchases, they've worked out agreements with all of the vendors, Blower, for example, to have these already sewn in when you buy them. So that's something they've already done. A lot of theirs, like I said, is automated with the squads, automated with the holster. They have an officer down feature, which I think is really neat, where if an officer is laying prone on the ground for a certain amount of time, it will send out alerts to everyone's phone and over the air saying that there's an officer down, and it will give that officer's exact location, which is a really nice feature to have, especially if we have someone on a foot pursuit, for example, and we don't really know or they don't know where they are, and then something happens. So it does have live view GPS services. So if we wanted to look at the camera from a remote location, we can do that. It has automatic policy activation. So depending on what our policy says, if it comes across the CAD, for example, that we are out on a burglary and that's one of our activations, it'll automatically activate. The officer won't have to do anything. There's no docking stations. It's wireless uploading. They have a pretty good suite as far as redaction goes, evidence management. They have automated license plate reader system with their Rocket IoT fleet camera. They also provide a DA portal. So this camera system is, I like it. It's really nice. It's very comparable to, I would say, Axon, that I'll talk about later. They were the ones that called me at 606. And they lowered their price substantially. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. The next camera system is WatchGuard by Motorola. They are a body camera fleet system. What's different about this company is that we only need to purchase 25 cameras from them because you can share these cameras because they have replaceable batteries. They also have what's called record after the fact. So you can go back 60, 80, 100 hours. If the officer forgot to turn the camera on, you can go back that, depending on what you set it for, that far and get that recording. The challenge that I've heard with that is that drains the batteries pretty substantially. So that's why they have replacement batteries. The concern there is, the officer has to kind of keep track of how much battery life they have, and will they be able to do that when they're out on the road, that type of thing. So there's a challenge with that. Removable batteries also, that's another fail point that can happen if they don't put those in properly. So those are challenges that come along with that. It does have a few automation triggers, your lights on your squad, the speed, ever got into a crash. Does have a smartphone app, auto tagging features with that. A lot of the things that they talk about when they are here are what's coming, what's coming, when it's coming. We don't know when it's coming, but it's going to be coming at some point, they say, like CAD integration. So we use Spillman now for CAD. That's a Motorola company. This is a Motorola company, so that'll be part of it. We don't know when that's coming. The redaction suite is coming at some point. And so those are some of the things that are coming. I don't know when. I did reach out to Greenfield because they're the only ones in the area, in Wisconsin, that I saw that were using them. There's supposedly more coming. They're using an older system. that doesn't have batteries. So they've had issues with their batteries. They've had to buy some kind of cord that they have to use on that to keep them charged. Issues with the mounts weren't good on the uniforms, and they came off during a struggle, that type of thing. And then the redaction software, they said, is very time consuming. So that is WatchGuard. Next is First View by Digital Ally. We currently use Digital Ally for our fleet cameras in our squads. This is a cloud-based system, does have auto redaction studio. The only really auto activation it has is with the light bars in the squad. It doesn't have taser, it doesn't have the weapon activation, anything like that. They do offer a 36-month camera refresh, and they do offer a prosecutor portal. Okay, the next is the Axon Body 3. This is a chest-mounted camera. This is for the camera and fleet system as well. This does have live view and GPS services. It has a cell phone app. It has auto activation features with your lights, your firearm, your taser within radius of the squad. It has a DA portal where we can send evidence to electronically. Their evidence management suite is one of the best that I've used in the past. This is the same company that I use in my other agencies. Cell phone uploaded as Axon Citizen. So let's say you have all these Ring cameras or whatever they have out there, and you want to have some of that video evidence. You can send them a link, and they can send the evidence directly to you through evidence management, which is nice. I would say they are the leader in research and development. They are probably the biggest company. They are probably the company that most agencies use by far. They have an 18-month refresh of equipment. And I will also say that I did a survey with the cameras that we're using now, and 78% of our officers prefer this camera over the Flex 2, which is the next one I'll show you. This is the Axon camera as well. This is a point of view camera. And what I mean by point of view is it can be worn on glasses next to your eye. It could be worn on your epaulette, on your shoulder, on your collar. And so you could wear it in a variety of different ways. It does have a cord. And one of the things that in the survey that I had not really thought of is, given our environment today with the masks, if they wear it with the glasses, those of you with glasses realize your glasses fog up. That's not a good feature to have, obviously. And so that's a challenge. It does have all the other, DA portal activation features. It does not have a live feed, and it does not have GPS services. So that's kind of a downfall in that regard. Only 12% of our officers preferred this option. The last option is what Green Bay is going with, is called the Officer Safety Plan. This incorporates the Axon Body 3, which is the first chest-mounted camera I showed you, the fleet cameras, and the tasers. So as you will note on here, the Taser 7, which is the top taser, has 2 cartridges that are in it. So if you fire a cartridge and one of the probes doesn't lodge or doesn't connect for some reason, you can fire the second one. So they claim that makes it 90% effective in their tests and what other agencies have done. We have the X26P, which is the bottom taser. Ours are yellow, but this one's black. They claim this is only 60% effective. Now, as you know, as a business model, with a lot of companies on a lot of different equipment, they only service this equipment for 5 years. So we have 18 cameras altogether that will be over or within 5 years as of November of this year. So what does that mean? It means they won't service them anymore. So if something goes wrong with them, we have to buy other cameras anyway. So we've spent approximately $29,000, a little over since 2016 on these X26Ps. Cost of training cartridges, around $18,000. They have quoted us on this bundle that we will save approximately $70,000 over the 5 years if we bundle this and purchase this together. So, and Axon did want me to tell you guys as we go into the next slide that they're willing to restructure the payment plan really any way we want to. They only require 10% each year. So if you only pay 10%, of course, it's going to roll onto the other years. So that this is the ever-changing cost comparison that I went through. I talked a little bit about body worn at the end. This is probably an old slide because they went from 412,594 to 325,000. So they dropped theirs down quite a bit, and that changed the overall cost of theirs. So body worn is that last column if you look at it. So really what I did was I took out the Packer contributions. So that's why the bottom graph down there is a little bit different. So if you look at the green top graph, I tried to put in there what the first year costs are, warranty replacement, licensing, storage, CAD and RMS integration, all the features that we think are important on whether or not those agencies include those or whether they don't. I've also included the discounts that are provided in there by each company and whether or not they have prosecutor portals. So if you look at that bottom yellow line that says total, that is what we would pay after the Packer contribution. So if you take a look at these, the Axon Body 3, you'll see that first column, you'll see what the costs are for each year. You look at the Axon Flex 2, you notice there's no cost to that and it's substantially lower. Well, keep in mind, the Axon Flex 2, you don't necessarily have to have a fleet camera with it. You can use it if it's point of view. The one thing that the officers don't like about that is there's no camera in the rear of the squad, no camera in the back passenger seat. So, that can be important. We've obviously seen incidents where people have had, medical issues in the back seat, and some have had cameras and some haven't. So it's nice to have those. It's more of a protection, in other words. Then you can see the officers, the OSP 7 Plus. This is about as accurate as I could get it. One of the things that the Packers will not contribute to are fleet cameras and tasers. So I tried to work out some of those costs and try to get them as close as I could. That one, the quotes I'm getting are just a little bit difficult to read, so I wouldn't say that one is set in stone. Digital Ally, for me, honestly, this is the least favorite of the systems. They are one of the cheapest. And WatchGuard, keep in mind they have a little bit of an advantage because they don't have 51 cameras, they only have 25. So that's why the costs are a little bit lower there with that. And then you have the body worn at 208,000. So look at the new graph that I gave you because that just changed prior to my arrival here. So what I'm looking for you from the board is some kind of direction on what you want me to do going forward. So I will say with the survey from the department that they would prefer to have the Axon Body 3 cameras based on the last trial. However, having said that, we have not tried WatchGuard and we have not tried body worn. We haven't tried Digital Ally either, but I'm not really interested in doing that one. So if the board wants me to explore those further, we can certainly do that, but I'd have to have a trial period with them for a couple weeks to do that. So I'm just looking for some direction from the board on what we want to kind of do moving forward. You'll see in the bottom gray area down there, keep in mind, we pay approximately, I think, $6,800 annually to Digital Ally for the fleet system. We also have costs in here for replacement cameras. You'll see $4,800 for 21, $9,600 for 22, $1,440 in 23, and $96 for 24 and 25. So that price would actually come off of these as well because we're already paying that. So just keep that in mind. Looks like Joel has something to say.
Yeah, I do want to just quickly add, Mary and I sat in on demonstrations for Digital Ally, WatchGuard, and body worn, and I certainly can't speak for Mary, but from my point of view, I think the only real comparison, again, this is a layperson's point of view, is between body worn and the Axon model. The Digital Ally, some of the same concerns that staff have with cords that it relates to the point of view camera you'll have with the Digital Ally system because it's a corded camera to a battery pack. So that's one of their concerns, is that cord creates conflict issues with if they get into a tussle. The WatchGuard demo was one of those things where I think maybe in 5 years they'll have a really good product, but they're completely in development phase for everything outside of the hardware. So all the components that go with that hardware and the software that's necessary, the cloud-based redaction components, all that stuff it was always, well, we're getting there. We're almost to that point of development. The challenge with the body-worn system, as Chief had mentioned, was the uniform upgrade that would be required in order to comply with that camera. But then also you have to bear in mind that the body-worn system, correct me if I'm wrong, does not include the tasers, versus the full Axon package includes cameras for both body, fleet, and the taser. So if you're trying to create an apples to apples comparison, it's really difficult when you have all these add-ons that everyone is kind of throwing at you. The other point that I'll make is with the Axon Body 3, the one on the left-hand side that does not include the tasers, there is some limitation to the amount of data storage that comes with that. And I would be, oh, it's updated now, okay.
Yep, just to speak on that, they have updated that. We really have 14 terabytes of storage now, so I don't think that's going to be an issue.
So it may not be an issue then.
Yeah.
I was concerned at 10 gigs that, you know, we have one major incident with multiple officers on scene and they're recording that much data, that 10 gigabytes is going to be eaten up quite quickly, but 14 terabytes might not be problematic. So that's just, I guess, my point of view is that you really have kind of two comparisons between Axon and body-worn, but then the Axon package really includes all of the components that public safety will need over the next 5 years.
Right, if we go with the OSP 7 Plus plan, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Now, so after sitting through these demonstrations, I have a question. The body-worn one, Brian, was that the one that we were in here and they had the little blue
Yes.
gun?
Yep.
Okay, got it.
Really, the body-worn camera is not a camera, it's a cell phone. And that's really what they have. It's a special cell phone that they've used for this. And that's why they have the special outfit, the little cutout and the uniform that they use, that they have to use that for the lens. So we're really not buying as they say, a box camera. We're buying the cell phone and the software package for that.
What did you think, Brian? I mean, did they show you what this uniform's going to look like? My concern would be, okay, it's like I'm thinking of a regular cell phone with a camera, and
it's in the middle of your chest.
Yeah, but I mean, it can slide within a pocket.
No, they've got they've got an actual pocket sewn inside of the uniform.
Okay.
And really what they said that the advantage of that would be is it can never be knocked off. It's inside your uniform, it's sewn in. The only thing that'll happen is it could be covered up basically with something. So, you know, my concern is let's say this doesn't happen very often, right? We go to an active shoot or something like that and we have these outer vest carriers that we throw over it with special plates. It would get covered up in something like that. But that's very few and far between, obviously. But those are critical incidents. We may want to have a video for, right? And we may not have that.
Right. From a maintenance standpoint, Brian, what did you feel was the best for your department to be maintaining? Which, the Axon system or?
Well, I'm very familiar with the Axon system. That's what I've used previous agencies, so I'm very familiar with those. If I had my way and money was no object, I would do the Officer Safety Plan Plus, 7 Plus. That's what I would prefer.
And you said that's what Green Bay is going with, right?
Yes, they're starting the Officer Safety Plan next month. One of the things that really attracted, I think, the Packers to this as well was not only the issues in society right now, but was the fact that all of these, and by helping the three of us, plus the peer, we'd all have the same system. That makes it really nice for the DA's office to have one kind of evidence coming in, being able to review that stuff. We can share information as we need to. So that was one of the reasons why they reached out to all of us to help us. I mean, they'll help us with everyone, obviously, but they did form a partnership with Axon. They have stuff coming down the road as well. I will tell you that, for example, Axon they're actually doing testing right now of a new records management system, where the officers will not have to do any reporting whatsoever. It will be done automatically through the camera lens. It will be transcribed through their software.
Nice.
So I'm telling you, they have the best R&D department. They spend the most money. So for me, they are the Cadillac of the systems out there right now. I think body worn is pretty good as well, but there are some challenges with that as well. But they did, I called them today and said, is this your best price? And they said, well, kind of. There's always a little wiggle room. And I said, well, what's the wiggle room? And then they came back and lowered it down a little bit farther. But, like I said, if I had my way and money wasn't an object, I would choose the OSP 7 Plus plan because we got to replace those tasers anyway. And if we can save $70,000 doing that over the next 5 years, I think that's a pretty smart move.
Yeah. Because if you save that 70 and then you're only talking the difference there of 140,000, so you're already saving half of that just with the tasers.
Yeah, and we spend $18,000 or whatever it is in training cartridges alone every year. We don't have to do that. It's included in this plan.
I had a question and now I forgot it. Come back to me. It just completely left. It's gone.
Oh, okay. I really don't care about these specs. The cameras were brought up a number of years ago. That is something that our officers should have. Financially, we couldn't afford it. It was a budget item thing. As time went on, the Packers stepped up and gave us some money to make it affordable. Our officers are our best asset we've got as far as protection in this village. I don't care which one you go with. I want you to go with the one that is best for our people. When you come up with what you want, it naturally will come back in front of the board. It'll only be a dollar thing because I want those safety officers to be protected in the best way that we can do it. So my suggestion would be to approve whatever you want on a trial basis. When you're comfortable with it, it'll come back here and we'll finally make that decision. So it's up to you to get what you want.
There's no trial basis needed any further. We've already tried the Axon camera systems
You've
out.
done that. Okay.
We've already done that. So
Okay.
really the only thing that comes down to is actually getting the final numbers solidified. If you authorize me to go with the OSP 7 Plus plan, I really need to get that honed in because I have to figure out how to apply the discounts based on what the Packers are doing to really get you a solid number. You talk about the financial aspect and whether we can afford it or not. One of my contentions is really can't afford not to have this.
Correct.
For me, this is an insurance policy, not only for the officers, but for the village as well. We see how things blow up and can backfire, with what has gone on so far. We need this, in my opinion, to protect ourselves in the village.
Okay, so which one would you need approval on? Because I'll make that a motion right now.
Like I said, if money's no object, and that really, what I would really like to have is the OSP 7 Plus plan.
All right, I'll
Can I
make
ask a
that.
question first? I remembered it.
Go on, you got.
What, you said this was in your 2021 budget. What did we set aside for this?
This was one of my goals to implement. I did not set aside any because I have no idea what it's going to be. So I did not budget for this. And really, if it wasn't for the Packers, this would have been a year-long process, I think, in my opinion, and then probably would have brought it back in '22 for a budgeted amount.
Okay, so there is not money in the budget for any of this?
That is correct. And I will say that there's already some businesses that have reached out to help us with this. So there might be some money coming in from the businesses. We'll certainly take a look and see if there's any grant opportunities to help us fund down the road as well. Really what I'd like to have is a sustainable program. I don't want it for just a 5-year program. I want it to be sustainable for all of us.
Yep, and I agree. Have you run these numbers by Greg?
No, Greg has not seen these numbers.
Is he going to have a panic attack?
He might.
Okay, thank you.
Do we know how the Packer money is going to be given to us? Because what I'm thinking is, yeah, we don't have it budgeted now, but if the Packer money is coming in up front, we could pay for the first how many years?
Well, that's what you see down below. I've kind of taken off what they've allotted for us
Okay,
for the first couple of years. And so that's why you see the price that it is lower in that bottom graph, because I've taken that off. The only thing that I haven't been able to do is kind of ferret out that OSP 7 Plus on what they will and won't pay for because of the fleet and the taser costs included in that. So I need a little bit more refining to get you an actual number of what that would be over the 5 years.
So my thought, because Gary, I'm on the same page that this isn't something that you necessarily go with the low bid on. You know, we want our officers protected. It's something we need. At this point, maybe instead of saying, yeah, go ahead with the OSP, we know the Axon Body 3 is the second if we don't do the OSP, right? That's the next one that we would want.
Oh, yeah, the Exxon Body 3 and the
Yeah.
fleet system, yep.
So my thought is maybe on this meeting, if we say move forward with plans for the Axon Body 3 and the OSP to hone in that OSP number. Or I don't know if you need an official go with the OSP. You know what I mean? I want to kind of leave the option open in case it is so astronomical, which...
Well, the numbers on the OSP 7 Plus aren't going to be any higher than what you see right now. So
Okay.
again, if you think about it, if it's really going to come down to the budget this year, Axon only wants 10% of the first year cost. So you're looking at 59,000, 10,000, or 5,900 off of that. So we can do that if the budget's going to be an issue this year and then plan for next year. But keep in mind, you're rolling that into the next years as well. So we can certainly do that. We can plan for that and try to kind of hone that down a little bit. But again, I think it only makes sense for us financially, even though it's a little bit more expensive, to go with the OSP 7 Plus because we're saving quite a bit of money in the end, especially with the tasers. So I see Joel nodding his head. He's kind of a budget guy too. And I think that makes sense for all of us. So what I would do then, if I got the approval from the board to go ahead with the OSP 7 Plus, is to hone down on exactly what those numbers would look like every year, get with Greg and Joel, and we can talk about how that would look for the budget, especially for this year since we have nothing in it.
what happens after 5 years?
So after I asked them that, what happens after 5 years? Really what happens is we can just keep rolling it over at those expenses. And so what that would look like, obviously wouldn't have the funding, but you're talking a good chunk of change, but things change all the time.
Exactly.
And after 5 years, if we decide it's too much or we don't want to go, we can always go with someone else. Maybe some of these other vendors will have caught up by then and we decide we want to move in a different direction. That's really an option for us.
Right. And since it's technology, the cost of it will probably come down.
Correct.
Well, it did come down for a while, and then we had 2021.
Yeah.
And everybody wants cameras now, right? So now these vendors are working day and night to try to keep up.
Yeah.
I would just like to say that we are very fortunate to have the partnership with the Green Bay Packers to help us with this. That's a very large chunk of dollars for this program. I've said for a lot of years that I do think that body cameras are going to be a thing that I think at some point the state's going to mandate it. There's just too many problems when you don't have them. But like I said, we have a very strong business community in Ashwaubenon. And there are a couple that I've already talked to that, have said that they are willing to help for this situation. Yeah. So I don't know what that is, but I think it's something we're going to have.
Yeah, I think there'll be other funding opportunities out there to help us. What that's going to be exactly, I can't tell you that, but I think there are going to be options out there for contributions from the businesses, for grants, whatever that might be. I do grants. I'm not a big fan of grants. I've told Mary this before, just because of the requirements that you have to adhere to every year for those. But if that's an option that we need to look at, we can certainly do that.
I go along with Gary.
All right, I'll make a motion to go with the Axon OSP 7 Plus to move forward and come back with a final price.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to instruct staff to get the final numbers, hone them down for the Axon OSP 7+. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. This is going to be of great benefit to us.
Okay, 10G, action on stray and impound animal shelter services agreement between the Village of Ashwaubenon and the Wisconsin Humane Society. Brian, you're up again.
I got to pull this up and stop sharing my screen. Hold on. Let me pull up the contract. Basically what happened is the Humane Society got a new director. They did not want to go with the year-over-year costs. They wanted to have a lump sum payment. We averaged out the 3 years that we've been with them and came up with a cost of $5,100. That is a little bit lower than we've had in the past as well. So really what I'm looking for is the board's approval to go ahead with this MOU and the cost involved, which I believe is $5,100. Just going off memory, I don't have it pulled up. Tony, is that right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions on this?
Chief, I have a couple questions. Is the Wisconsin Humane Society now in charge of the Bay Area Humane Society, or did they take that over? Or
Yeah, I think they took that over. Yep.
Okay. Then the other question I have on the agreement is the section about impound animals. There's that penalty. They give you a 10-day notice, and then at that point, the village needs to take the animal. When would this situation occur, and what would the village?
Yeah, we're not taking any animals. I don't know that that's ever occurred in the past.
Okay.
But that's not going to be our practice. I don't know, Tony, you can weigh in on that because I think you had some discussion on that as well.
Yes, that was a point of discussion that we had with Wisconsin Humane Society. The Wisconsin Humane Society has a variety of these standardized agreements with other municipalities throughout the country. I flagged this as a point of concern, and through our discussions, they realized what our position was. They're very cooperative, and so really this situation rarely, if ever, comes up, and we were ensured that if this situation, there would be enough time throughout that 10-day period to make alternative plans, and that they would work with us to address that.
Okay, so you're not concerned that all of a sudden the village is going to end up with an animal that they're going to have to go, what do we do with this animal now?
Correct.
Okay, so you've worked it out with them, even though it does still state in this agreement that we would be responsible?
Yes.
Would not have that issue?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. And the fee for this is $5,000 as opposed to $5,100 as well.
Thank you.
All right, I'll move to approve the animal shelter agreement between the Village of Ashwaubenon and the Wisconsin Humane Society.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agreement for the Wisconsin Humane Society. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 10H, review and approval of the 2021 Engineering Public Works Building Inspection Joint Vehicle Purchase Strategy. Say that 4 times quick.
Good evening, everybody. Through last year's budget process, if you remember, the request was to save some funds. We dropped down the total amount that we were going to use in purchasing vehicles for these 6 replacements over the 3 departments. And we were asked to go with used vehicles, like new vehicles. And we're still using the same numbers we had in the budget, but we wanted, after meeting with the 3 departments, What we wanted to do is come back to village board and get the approval with the purchase strategy. Normally, there is a purchase of new vehicles, so you get quotes, you come back with the quotes, get the quotes approved, then place the order. With used vehicles, as you know, you have to be more fluid. What we'd like to do is create our list of the type of vehicle we'd be looking for in each of the departments, get those to our local vendors. They would notify us when they have vehicles meeting that specification and cost, that price point, and then we can move forward with the purchases with your approval. It's a little different than we do it. It's a little bit of a trust factor, but in order to follow the used vehicle purchase route, we just have to be a little more quick on the draw in the purchasing aspect of it. So that's what tonight's discussion and action by you would be to approve that strategy.
Yeah, the engineering and public works and inspection vehicles have been hand-me-downs. So hopefully we can get a larger amount that aren't hand-me-downs, but still good vehicles that are reliable. And
we have one vehicle that might make it on Modern Marvels. The floorboards have rusted out and there's a stop sign bolted in place for the floor. So we've got some interesting duct tape and spit and glue that are holding a couple of them together.
Yeah. So
I would assume, Doug, that you still will put something together that you'll get out to maybe the local dealers in town, just saying we're looking for this type of car, but not a formal bid package, so you'll have them keeping their eyes open for you.
Right, so because each department's different. One of the vehicles is for a street operations supervisor, so that would need to be something more along the lines of four-wheel drive. But for a vehicle, say for building inspection or an engineering, it could be something different. I'm not going to use the right vehicle, but it could be an Escape or an Equinox or something of a smaller magnitude. So we would get everybody in agreement as to what those would be, and then probably even talk to the vendors and say, okay, here's our general price points. Can you let us know when you hit those along with the type of vehicle? We'd have to talk to the mechanics so we don't, there are some year models that are better than others, and we don't want to get a bunch of jalopies in here either. So that's what we'd be working on next.
So basically, we're approving the large dollar amount and then letting you do all the fun stuff.
Yes. Yeah, the amount hasn't changed from the budget. It's just the approval that we'll meet or beat that number and purchase them on the fly, if you will.
Yep. I see no issues with that. I'm good with that plan. So I will move to approve the 2021 Engineering Public Works Building Inspection Joint Vehicle Purchase Strategy as proposed.
Second.
a motion and a second to approve the joint vehicle purchase strategy. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 10I, review and action regarding the bid award for the Vanderparen Way County HH Utility Improvement Contract. Doug?
This item, if you remember back in December, we had a public informational meeting regarding the roadway design that Brown County will be constructing this summer on Vanderparen Way between Oneida and Holmgren. We have the utility reconstruction portion of that project that has to precede that construction. So we have sanitary water and storm sewer main that would get replaced underneath this section of roadway. So we worked on the design of that over the winter and put it out for bid, open bids on the 12th. We had 11 bidders, all pre-qualified, and had a low bid of $560,543.54 from DeGroot Incorporated. Had a wide range on the bids. There are 4 to 5 contractors that are already full through July of this year. There were 3 or 4 contractors that were still looking for work. DeGroot Incorporated is a very experienced urban reconstruction contractor, so we feel very comfortable with them. The budget for this project was $640,000, so we came about $80,000 under from that aspect, so we're sitting good there. The one unique thing that I've shared at the staff meeting or whatnot is The bids were handled via Quest or online, if you will. And when they were, as the consultant approves all of the bids, it puts them in order. We didn't know that, and it puts it in descending order. So it started out with the highest bid first, and they read the first bid, and Steve and I were sitting in there, and we got nervous pretty quickly. And then they read the second bid, and it wasn't much lower than the first bid. And we started looking at each other, and then we figured it out. You said Happy National Engineers Week. It took us 3 bids before we figured it out, so I don't know that you should give us too much credit. But as they started reading down, then we caught on, and as I got to the end, it was in good shape. The last time we used DeGroot Incorporated was on Brookwood Drive when we relayed the sanitary sewer over by on Brookwood Drive from Marley to Argonne Street. That was in preparation for the Cabela's development back in 2012, and there's some water main work over there as well. That's the last time we used them. Good contractor, so we wouldn't have any problems. So that staff's recommendation would be to award contract to DeGroot Incorporated. And with that, I'll take any questions.
I don't have a question on the bid. I think that DeGroot's a good contractor, and the price obviously is good. My question is, what else on this project does the village have to pay for? I realize the county is going to be doing the paving. Is there other contracts that are going out that the village will be responsible for this project?
For this project, it'll be the utility work that you see here, and then there's an SMA, a state municipal agreement between the village and county for the roadway work. And that was roughly, don't hold me to the number, it was about $400,000. It's a 50-50 split on the roadway reconstruction cost with the county.
And then the county is going to be doing the asphalt and the paving, and then is curb and gutter done by subcontractor? That'll be bid out separately then?
Correct.
And then are we responsible for some of the cost for that as well, or is that in part of the roadway costs?
That's part of the roadway cost and part of that municipal agreement we have with the county.
Move to approve the contract to DeGroot Incorporated for the base bid of $560,543.54.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the bid from DeGroot for $560,543.54. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 10J, consider, discuss, act on resolution 02-3-21, transfer agreement with the Village of Hobart for reserve Class B combination alcohol licenses. Tony.
Okay, the item that's before you tonight is a resolution and an associated transfer agreement with the Village of Hobart. As you may know, we are essentially at our quota with our Class B combination liquor licenses. As a result of that, we have received multiple inquiries from other businesses that are interested in Class B combination liquor licenses, and as a result, we reached out to the surrounding municipalities to see if any would be agreeable to transferring any of their reserve alcohol licenses. The Village of Hobart responded that they would be agreeable to transferring 3, which is consistent with and allowed to by recent changes in state law, as far as under Chapter 125, the alcohol license chapter. The Village of Hobart took that through their village board, which was approved, and as a result of that, we drafted the attached transfer agreement to kind of formalize this process. The price would be $10,000 per license, which is established by the Village of Hobart, which is also consistent with the price of a reserve license, and that would also then be in turn the cost of the reserve license for us as well. So this is a formalization of the request for a couple of additional licenses as allowed by state law, and the transfer agreement to formalize the process.
I'd like to say thanks to Hobart for letting us have this agreement. It's really important for us to get some more liquor licenses, and we'll see how our population goes up, but I don't know if it's going to go up enough to warrant any more. So this is a really good thing, so.
So do we have to pay for the licenses when they come from Hobart? And then obviously when a business comes and would like that license, that money comes back to us, but we pay for the initial fee to get them from Hobart right away? Or is there closer to when someone requests it? How does that work as far as the transfer?
I think we could probably work on those mechanics. The law is vague in the sense as far as how that's going to go. So we really could formalize the process, and then once we say get an application, and what we've discussed is, you know, at this point we'll handle the application process. But I would envision it would probably be something that'd be a really pretty quick turnaround, just so we can minimize that cost issue.
Based on the draft agreement that you have in front of you as well, that the actual transfer doesn't occur until after the $10,000 has been paid to Hobart. So they recognize that they're going to hold 3 licenses for Ashwaubenon as part of this agreement. And should a business come in, the mechanics that Tony describes is, do they pay us the $10,000, meaning Ashwaubenon, and then we transfer the $10,000 to Hobart? Or do they just simply pay Hobart directly and then they transfer the license? We can work through those mechanics, but ultimately that $10,000 would get paid by the operator first, or the business, if you will, and then that would indicate the transfer of that license. So we would not need to pay in advance.
Okay, that was the question, because if
Correct.
we have a business not come through for 3 years, we've paid, you know, $10,000 for a license that we're holding for that long.
Correct.
So that's great. I'm glad.
And
it's handled
we
that
do
way.
not need to pay for all 3 at once. We would pay based
As
on the
they're
need
needed.
that arises.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, I'll move to approve resolution 2-321, transfer agreement with the Village of Hobart for reserving Class B combination alcohol licenses.
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution 02-3-21. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 10K, consider, discuss, act on resolution R 2-4-21, supporting consolidated property tax collection through the Brown County Treasurer's Office. This, Joel will handle this, but this item came up 3 years ago when the county treasurer wanted us to start collecting our first payment of property tax, and it's now come up again, and I had Joel draft this resolution, and we've shared it with many different villages, City of De Pere, the Towns Association, because I just feel that we should have at least a 1-year warning on this so we can get all of our ducks in a row so we can actually do this. So I'll let Joel handle this now.
Yeah, it's similar to the body cameras. It appears that this is a moving target as well, because
Yeah.
Chris got an email from Paul Zeller this afternoon after 4:30 p.m. indicating that he has gotten considerable feedback from towns and villages about his proposed changes. And so ultimately, as part of his communication to us, is that he's worked with the vendor that will handle payments, property tax payments, to reduce the overall cost to the municipalities, as well as invoice that cost to the municipalities after January 1, thus allowing the municipalities to not worry about that fiscal expenditure before the end of the calendar year. With that being said, I think those are definitely opportunities that are moving in the right direction, but the resolution ultimately still, I think, is appropriate for this evening and for your consideration for a couple reasons. One, I think that administratively, we feel that consolidated property tax payments at a centralized location like Brown County, it makes just sense logistically and financially. Every municipality will have to encumber that cost of providing additional staffing and resources in order to accommodate those payments, and so having that consolidated location certainly does that. So we certainly recommend and advocate for that continued consolidated collection point. In addition to that, obviously, Paul's made some progress here as of today in trying to let us be prepared so that we can make sure that we have the resources and the finances in place in order to accommodate this service change. However, we would prefer a multi-year approach to this effort so that we can transition not only our operations, but also our communications back to the general public. So since 2012, our residents have been paying their taxes through the county, both first and second installments, and now we're going to go and change that. That can be rather confusing to many. And so we think that it would be important to provide a period of time of multiple years to inform residents of those changes. And then, although not included in the resolution specifically, but it does pose a challenge that if you have an individual taxpayer that has properties in multiple jurisdictions, now that individual has to go to each jurisdiction in order to make their property tax payment. Whereas if they own, multiple locations, let's say a business owner, they can make their single payment at the county and be done with it. So our resolution here tonight basically is just requesting that the county treasurer take these points into consideration and maybe make a change in his policy direction as it relates to consolidated tax payments. I will note that the agreement that's included in the packet did require a signature date by a certain time period that would be before our next meeting. However, in the email that we received from Paul this evening, that agreement would need to be signed sometime by the end of March. So we can pass the resolution this evening and still bring forward the amended agreement next month if we don't make any traction with the county in this effort.
Okay. Is Paul Zeller's main reason to go ahead with this is cost savings for the county? Is that the reason he's looking at moving tax collection back?
Good question. I don't know that he's necessarily been clear to us precisely as to why it is. I think I'm speculating, but my guess is that when you ran and campaigned to become county treasurer, there was an effort or concern about parking and access to the county treasurer's office downtown. And I think there was some interest in trying to get tax payments out of downtown, away from the courthouse. To avoid those issues, and by doing this, I think that certainly helps. I do believe that it's probably a cost savings approach too. Just from a resource standpoint, he may not feel that he has adequate resources to accommodate the task at hand.
Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution R2-4- 2021 supporting consolidation property tax collection to the county's treasurer office.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution R2-4-2021. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 10L, consider, discuss, or act on resolution R2-5-21, supporting the creation of a new water municipal appointment committee.
Yep, this particular resolution is being presented to you as it is all presumably all other New Water municipal customers. So New Water is the brand name of the Green Bay Area Metropolitan Sewage District, so where we send our water sewage to be treated. In any event, this kind of thought process was born from the village of Swamico. Right now, there's a 5-member member body that represents the Green Bay Area Metropolitan Sewage District that is appointed by the county executive. None of those individual appointees are representative, per se, of the municipal customers that send the vast majority of waste to the treatment facilities for treatment. And so the desire is that this committee that would be ultimately formed under this resolution would be to appoint, or I should say recommend an appointment to the county executive whose interest lies solely with the municipal customer for eventual appointment to that 5-person board. It's my understanding that at some point over the next year to 2 years, there's going to be a vacancy on the board, and it could be an opportune time for the municipal customers to make that recommendation to the county executive. So ultimately, what this resolution is doing is essentially allowing President Kardasky to make an appointment from the village to this committee that will ultimately review potential appointees to be then sent to the county executive for consideration to actual permanent appointment to the new water board. And that's really kind of what it is. There was some review and consideration about maybe pushing and presenting some statutory changes. But at this point, we felt that that would be a very cumbersome approach and one that likely would elicit very little interest from state legislators in making those changes.
Okay.
I just think this is a great idea when you think of the bulk of the customers. What were they saying? 80% of the customers are municipalities, and they have a board that governs that does not have anyone representing the municipality. So I think this is needed. It's been needed for a long time. I think this was discussed when I was in Alloway. We were talking about this, and it was a concern. So I totally support going ahead with this, and I hope that when the municipalities come up with someone, that county exec will take that seriously and appoint somebody to represent us.
Okay. Is that a motion, Tracy?
Sure. I have a motion to approve Resolution R2521, supporting the creation of a new water municipal appointment committee.
Okay.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution R2-5-21. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 10M, consider, discuss, act on Ashwaubenon Public Safety Officers Association grievance under Article XVI, Section G of the collective bargaining agreement. Joel.
Thank you, Madam President. So as described in the action item, the Ashwaubenon Public Safety Officers Association did file a grievance under the collective bargaining agreement on January 21st. That grievance was related to payouts for unused sick leave at the end of the calendar year. So if a public safety officer that's represented under the union does not use their sick leave allotment for that current year, in the event that they're maxed in their accrual, they have the opportunity to convert that into a payout or some other time off. And so they're arguing the value of that payout is in conflict with the contract language. Again, this grievance was presented to Chief Ewell on January 21st, of which Chief denied the grievance on February 3rd. In accordance to the grievance procedure, it was presented to my attention on February 4th, of which I denied the grievance on February 8th. And the reasoning for my denial was based on the current grievance appears to be consistent with ongoing arbitration matters between the village and the union. The village's current position is that payouts for sick leave are based upon the officer's actual hourly rate, which is based upon the officer's salary divided by the number of hours required by that person's shift. So for example, 2,920 hours for a 24-hour shift and not what is so-called the overtime rate. I do see that the Union Secretary, Melanie Lovato, is on the line, and so she may be available to speak on behalf of the union. I'm not sure if she is willing to do so, but this item is being presented to the board for your consideration in accordance to the grievance policy. So with that, I'll answer any questions or see if Melanie has any comments.
Okay. Any questions? Any comments? Okay.
I'll move to deny the grievance under the Article XV1, Section G of the collective bargaining agreement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to deny the grievance from the Ashwaubenon Public Safety Officers Association. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 11, items for next agenda. If anybody has anything they'd like on the agenda, give the office a call. Chris, closed session items, you're up. Yep.
Okay, during the meeting, the Village Board of the Village of Ashwaubenon may convene in closed session pursuant to A, Wisconsin Statute Section 19.85, Sub 1, Sub E, for consideration, discussion, action on deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specific public business regarding parcel VA-132-1-4, located at 2401 South Oneida Street, where competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. B, Wisconsin Statute Section 19.85, Sub 1, Sub C, for consideration, discussion, action on the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee, including department heads, as well as Ashwaubenon Public Safety Union 2020 sick leave grievance over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. C, Wisconsin Statute Section 19.85, Sub 1, Sub F, for consideration, discussion, action on department heads as well as Ashwaubenon Public Safety Union 2020 sick leave grievance and related financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminarily consideration of specific personnel problems or the investigation of charges against specific persons except where Par B applies, which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data or involved in such problems or investigations.
You don't have to read D. Okay. So I need a motion to go into closed session.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second to go into closed session. Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear who was first and who was second.
Gary was first.
Okay.
Allison was second.
Okay. President Kardasky,
Yes.
Trustee Paul,
Yes.
Trustee Williams,
Yes.
Trustee Krieger,
Yes.
and Trustee Flukie.
Yes.
Thank you.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
What do you want to, I thought, young kid, you'll beat me, don't you? I see. No.
So, okay, this is new to me.
Huh? I don't know. This meeting?
Meeting's in, I think it's done. Yeah, go ahead. Well,
I don't know what to do. I'd pick it up and throw it. Or I'd get it with my hammer.
Large concern as what I might be done about it. And he mentioned I was going to talk to you. I didn't reply back. Yeah, but
Oh, okay.
so long as you hit